let's now check out how to convert fractions into percentages. So how do we convert a fraction into a percent? Well, there's two ways that I like to look at this. We can either get the fraction to be out of 100 just using a little bit of ingenuity, a little bit of math savvy, or we can use a proportion. So I'm going to show you both ways with these problems. With 7/50ths, I look at that and say, well, I could get that fraction to be out of 100. And again, we want the fraction to be out of 100 because a percent is a ratio of a number to 100, right? So I could get this fraction to be out of 100 if I multiply 50 by 2. So I'll multiply the denominator by 2, but then I also must multiply the numerator by the same number so that we don't change the ratio. Well, 7 times 2 is 14. 50 times 2 is 100. So now we've successfully made this so that it is a fraction out of 100, and that means that 14 out of 100, or 14 per 100, is equal to 14%. So that's one way of doing things. And it's a great way of doing things. So I'm going to go over a second method now with 4/5. That method could also be used, the one that we just used, to get it to be out of 100, or we can set up a proportion. The reason why a proportion works is our goal is to have this ratio be equal to a ratio per 100, or out of 100. So I've got that 4/5 needs to be equal to some number, we'll call it P for percent, out of 100. Remember that in a ratio, what we're looking for is just a number compared to another one, right, with division. And in a proportion, we want both ratios to be equal. So we're going to make this into a ratio equal to a number out of 100, per 100. So how do we solve this out? Well, we can cross multiply. So to cross multiply here, I simply multiply 4 by 100. So that's going to give me 400. And then I multiply 5 by P. And so that's going to be equal to 5 times P, just like that. What we have left is an equation to solve. So I undo multiplication by 5 by dividing by 5 on both sides. And that leaves me with 80 is equal to P. So what is our percent? Well, it's 80% because P is that number that we're going to get out of 100. So that is 80%. So two different ways of doing things here, and it certainly is up to you which way you want to go. I actually prefer looking at it mentally and saying, well, if I can get it out of 100 pretty quickly, I'm going to take this route. If I have a number where I'm not quite sure what to multiply it by to get my number out of 100, then I think that the proportion is the way to go. It's a little lengthier, but it's doable. So stay tuned in this clip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, if you're good on these two, you can shut the video off. Great, you're good. Otherwise, what I'm going to do right now is go over one other problem using both methods so that you see both together. So it's your call. If you're good with these, you're good. If not, here we go. So I've got 8 over 25. How do I rock 8 over 25 as a percent? Well, first I noticed that I could multiply 25 by 4 to get it out of 100. So I'll multiply numerator and denominator by 4, and that gives me 32 out of 100, or 32 per 100, which is 32%. Again, I think this is the quicker way to do things, but proportions are sometimes taught as the only way, so here's how we do it with proportions. We're saying 8 out of 25 is our ratio, and we want it to be a number out of 100. We want to set it equal to some number P for percent out of 100, because a percent is a ratio out of 100. So with this problem, I can't really reduce the left-hand side, so I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to cross multiply 8 by 100. And that's going to net me 800. And then 25 times P. Like so. 25 times P is just 25P. What I have left is an equation to solve. We're going to undo multiplication by 25 by dividing by 25. So I divide by 25 on both sides. And oh man, that is going to give me a value of, well, let's see, I believe 32. That's pretty big. So I get P equals 32, which means that our answer is 32%, right? That P value that you just found is the number out of 100, or 32%. There you have it, a masterclass, if I do say so myself, in converting fractions into percents. What we have here is a quick add-on to how to convert fractions into percents. We first went over how to convert fractions into percents with proportions. But if you have a calculator handy or have a lot of calculations to do and should get a calculator handy, then this is definitely the way to go. So what do? Well, let's start out with an easy fraction that we might have memorized as a decimal conversion, 3 out of 4. So 3/4 or 3/4 is 0.75. If we don't know that, then we can basically validate that or make sure that we're right on that by dividing 3 by 4. Right? And you literally do that division in your calculator. And when you do 3 divided by 4 in your calculator, you will get 0.75. And now from here, we know that we have 75 hundredths, and 75 hundredths is the same as 75 per 100 or 75%. There we have it. So it's a simple conversion. You don't have to use your calculator for something like that, but it is quick and simple. So if you've got a lot of fractions to convert into percents, I would really recommend investing in a calculator, or at least using someone else's. Okay, so 52 divided by 175. Well, this 52 divided by 175, what we do here is we divide 52 by 175. Now this with a proportion would be an absolute nightmare. We don't want to do this with a proportion and set it equal to a percent over 100. So when we divide this out in the calculator, we're going to get 0.297. What is 0.297 as a percent? Well, it depends. Let's say that we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. This is about 0.30, right? That 7 would round that up to the nearest hundredth and we'd get 0.30. That's 30 hundredths, or 30 per 100, which is 30%. So that's roughly 30%, or you could take this decimal if you wanted an exact answer and you weren't rounding, and you could move the decimal point 1, 2 places to the right. By doing that, what we've done is we've multiplied this number by 100 to figure out how many hundredths we have. We have 29.7 hundredths, or 29.7 per 100%. There you have it, folks. So really, a great technique is using your calculator to do the division that your fraction says to do. Then we take the resulting decimal and convert it into a percentage. That's all. Not too bad.